siyam. Shurutus siyam mean the condition of fasting. Al-Imam Al-Hadrami saying in this book, for the fasting to be correct, there are conditions. First, the intention for every day means an-niyah. So the first rukun, the first syarat of fasting is you must have the niyah, you must have the intention. So what is intention? Intention is to put inside your heart saying that you are going to fast. You are going to fast. So we call it in Arabic, for example, nawaitu sawma ghadin an adai fardi syahri ramadhani hadhihi sanati lillahi ta'ala. Nawaitu means I intend, sawma ghadin to fast tomorrow, ghadin an adai fardi syahri ramadhani to perform fasting, the obligatory fasting of Ramadan, hadhihi sanati, within this year, hadhihi sanati, for this year, lillahi ta'ala, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Please beware when you recite the niyah, the intention of fasting Ramadan, make sure you read it correctly. Nawaitu sawma ghadin an adai fardi syahri ramadhani. With kasrah of the nun, not fathah. Because Ramadhani is mudafun ilaih, and he is also a mudaf in Arabic, in the grammar, which is mudaf to hadhihi sanati. And hadhihi sanati become the final mudaf ilaih. In Alfiyah Ibn Malik, Al-Imam Ibn Malik said, وَجُرَّ بِالْفَتْحَةِ مَا لَنْ يَنْصَرِفْ. Yes, everything that is مَا لَنْ يَنْصَرِفْ, يعني al-ism, a noun that cannot be tanween in Arabic, we call it ism ghairu munsarif. When it is being in the condition of i'rab of jar, it has to be read as fathah, yani Ramadana. But when it become a mudaf, and when it become a mudaf, malam yakun aw yani malam yudaf aw yaku bada ar-radif, as long as it doesn't become a mudaf, because when Ramadan become a mudaf, then it goes back to the first ruling, which is a normal recitation bil kasri, with the kasrah, means yani adai fardi syahri ramadhani hadhihi sanati, not Ramadana hadhihi sanati. But if you insist to read it by fathah, with fathah, then you have to read it like this. Nawaitu sama ghadin an adai fardi syahri Ramadana hadhihi sanata. Not hadhihi sanati, but hadhihi sanata lillahi ta'ala, because the hadhihi sanata become a zarf wal mazruf, means it is a zarf, where a zarf should be read as a nasab bil fathi, with a fathah. Brothers and sisters, that is the wording of the niyah, the intention for Ramadan. And it is compulsory, he says here, it is compulsory to have the intention before the beginning of the fasting for the obligatory fast, unlike the supererogatory fasting. Means that this is an obligation for all of us as a Muslim to make sure every night of our Ramadan, we have to put the intention inside our heart. I know when we say to voice it out, or to talaffuz bin niyat, means to voice it out, is not necessary in the Shafi'i madhab, nor in other madhab. But in the Shafi'i madhab, by voicing out your niyah is also a sunnah. It also yundabu, mean is also called as one of the, is also promoted or suggested by the scholars. Why? Because talaffuz bin niyah, when you voice out your niyah, it will help, means your tongue will help your heart to have that intention, and giving and starting and putting the intention to perform the fasting for Ramadan. So, we can have, that's why in our area, especially in Malaysia, Indonesia, or we call it in the Malay world, or even any Islamic, Arabic, Shafi'i madhab country, where usually after Salatul Jama'ah of Maghrib, or after Salatul Tarawih, for example, all of us, whether the Imam and the Ma'mums or the children, will recite the niyah all together. Nawaitu sama ghadin an adai fardi syahri Ramadhani hadhihi sanati lillahi ta'ala. the intention to make sure that we really put the intention of fasting tomorrow in our in the night time before the day come of the Ramadan. So this is one of the most very important rulings on the fasting, because if someone who actually enter the day of Ramadan without putting the intention inside their heart, then their fasting is not considered as it's considered as void, means it's not considered as correct or considered as accepted. Okay, and then unlike the supererogatory fasting, means for example the siyamus sunnah, the fasting of sunnah, no, we doesn't need to put the intention in the evening of the night before. Why? Because you can put the intention even the day before the zenith, in which the intention can be performed before the zenith. That is for the siyamus sunnah, mean other than siyamul Ramadan or the fasting of Ramadan. It is also obligatory to specify the type of fast. So you have to specify what kind of fasting. Nawaitu sawma syahr Ramadan, nawaitu sawma Ramadan, for example. So nawaitu sawma ghadin, I am intending to fast tomorrow for an adai fardi syahr Ramadan, to perform the obligation of fasting in the month of Ramadan. Okay, but not the obligation for the obligatory, means it's not wajib for the fasting, the intention of fasting, to put the fardi syahr Ramadan, because when you say nawaitu sawma Ramadan, it's already included as it is obligation. It's already obligatory for all Muslims. So this is similar in the, for example, in the salat, in the salah, we know the intention of salat. Usalli farda zuhri, you need to put the fardu, you need to put the obligatory of the zuhur. Because when you say usalli zuhra, it could be sunnatul rawatib of the zuhur, means the sunnah before zuhur and the sunnah after zuhur. So you need to put the fardu. But when it comes to Ramadan, there is no other fasting in Ramadan except it is obligatory for all Muslims. So that is the first syarat of fasting. And then the second condition of fasting is refraining from intercourse purposely and from masturbation. So this is one of the reasons why Imam Al-Ghazali say in the Ihya Ulumuddin, what is the secret of fasting? The secret of fasting is actually a sabr, to have patience. And patience is actually 1/4 of the iman, 1/4 of the faith. Because sabr is half. Sabr is actually half of the faith. So if fasting is half of the sabr and sabr is half of the faith, so fasting is actually 1/4 of the faith. So this is why important in Islam for us as a Muslim to make sure our fasting is a quality fasting where we can feel why we need to be a patient person, why we need a patient, why we need a sabr in our fasting. So that's why also Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in one of his hadith, when if someone feels that he want to get married, but he doesn't have the resources to get married, or maybe he don't have a person that he can get married. So what he should do, Prophet Muhammad said that fal yasum. So he is better for him to fast, because by fasting he can make sure that himself doesn't enter to anything, any kind that is sinful in Islam. Brothers and sisters of Islam, the third condition of fasting is refraining from purposely vomiting. It does not harm if one vomits without choice. Means one of the reason is to make sure that you don't purposely vomit by putting your hand inside your mouth, for example, or by smelling something that will make you vomit, for example. So this is the third condition of fasting. And the fourth condition of fasting, and one of the most important element of fasting, is refraining from any substance entering the interns, including via the inner part of the ear or the ihlil. So before I explain this passage, you have to understand what is ihlil. Ihlil refers to the opening of the male organ or the opening of the female nipple from where the milk flows. So your brothers and sisters of Islam, hadirin wal hadirat hafizakumullah, So this is one of the most important elements where when you fast, you have to make sure that nothing enters your intern. They call it jawf. Jawf means your inter body, from including via inner part of the ears, for example, your nose, your mouth, or your ihlil, your private parts, for example. So why? Because this is the maqasid of Siyam. This is the reason, the philosophy of Siyam, to make sure that you don't eat or drink. Make sure you don't try to get something. So is it problem, Ustad? If, for example, I'm having an asthma, can I take the shots of the asthma, what do you call it, the medicine, the shots to make sure that I will not get an asthmatic? The answer is your fast will be void. But it's okay, you don't have to pay the kafarah, you don't have to pay the fidyah because you have an asthma. So you need to break your fast by taking that medicine. But make sure that when it's not in the time of Ramadan, you have to repay your fasting. I mean, you have to refast your fasting in the time after of the Ramadan. That is the Shafi'i ruling on this issue. But Ustaz, what happened today in the time of COVID where we need to put, we need to take the swab test where they will put a needle or maybe something inside our nose, a stick to take our, saliva or anything inside our nose, and it's more than our inner parts of our body or our nose, for example. So the answer for this, that in Shafi'i madhab, it will void your fasting, but there is a solution where we in Malaysia or in the time of pandemic, we follow the Maliki's madhab in this issue, where the Maliki's madhab says, as long as the thing is not something that can be, waterish, can be, something that is not like medicine, not something like a water or a food, but it is something like a stick, for example, something that is jamadat, something that is hard, is a hard thing, then it will not annul or it will not void your fasting. So that is where we took this opinion in the time of COVID. So you can have your swab test and it will not void your fasting. And then another question, Ustaz, how about taking vaccine in the time of fasting? Especially today, we are going to have our vaccination in all of the university and also the schools and, everyone that have already registered that they need to take the vaccine, and it's time of Ramadan. So in the Shafi'i madhab, we have already said that entering the interns, that it has to be on condition it enters from an open passage. Means if it is from open passage, then it will void your fasting. Now, vaccination, it is a shot that you took from your arm, on your arm, where it doesn't enter from any open passage. Any open passage, no. It is put it inside your muscle. So from the muscle, and it goes through your body to make sure you have the immune system. So it doesn't void your fasting. That is the right ruling for taking vaccination in the time of fasting. So it's okay for you to take the vaccination. It does not harm to the fast if anything enters via the pores like oil, coal, or whilst washing. For example, when you wash or you have any oil or something, maybe you take a coal, for example, and then it enters your eyes, and then you can feel like something go through inside your body. For example, it doesn't void your fast. Why? Because it's not considered as manfaz al-maftuh, or we call it in English as open passage. So it's okay. If one eats or drinks a little or a lot out of forgetfulness or ignorance, then the fast isn't broken. Also, when someone drinks or eat, without knowing that drinking or eating will void your fast, then your fast is not considered as void. Means you are still fasting because you don't surrender during or you forget. When you forget, it is considered as ma'fu. It's considered as it's okay. It will not void your fasting, whether it's a lot or a little bit of food or drinks. Okay, the unlearned, for example, the unlearned is an excuse unless one is new to Islam. So how about someone who just entered Islam and they don't know the ruling of fasting? So it is ma'fu anhu. Because they are qaribu ahdi fil Islam. They just entered Islam. So they might not know about this ruling. But if someone who unlearned because, just neglect, they don't want to learn, then it's not considered as ma'zur. So they are considered as someone who actually neglectful of their education, your Islamic education. So they are not considered as excuse. Or another condition has been brought up in barren land far away from scholars. For example, someone born in an island, for example, where there is nobody else except he himself. And then with, like a Tarzan, for example, where live with animals, so nobody can teach him or know, and he cannot learn from anyone about the ruling of fasting, so he will consider to be excused for this issue. Brothers and sisters of Islam. So this is the condition of fasting. And then the fifth is Islam, that the only person who can perform the ibadah, the ibadah of fasting must be to be Muslim. And the sixth is cleanliness of menses and postnatal bleeding for the woman, for the nisa. So make sure the sisters that you are not in mens or menstruation or any postnatal bleeding, or we call it nifas. And the last one is sanity during most of the daytime. You have to be insane. So you are not, you're not insane, for example. You have to be sane, means you have to be awake. You can sleep, but it means that you are not crazy. You are not someone who actually lost your mind. It does not harm if one is unconscious or drunk, if one is awake for at least a moment during the daytime. So inshallah, this is our class today for the beginning of learning about the siyam, or we call it the learning on the fasting, the ruling of fasting in accordance to the Shafi'i madhab of our madhab in Malaysia and this area of the Malay world. I'm hoping inshallah everyone that can have today can have their good quality fasting, to make sure they not only fast with their body, means that they not only fast by not eating or drinking, but they should also fast with their heart, which does not attempt any kind of sin in this blessed day, insyaAllah. Aqulu qawli hadza astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ada rakam ke tak ada rakam?